Carlito's Way is one of my favorite movies. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But today I'm going to talk about what we can learn from Carlito. Even though he was in street life, a lot of his practices, a lot of his thought process you can apply to working in corporate America. Now, Carlito's, all the people, even though it's street life, all the people and characters are pretty much the same from the street life to the corporate life. It's just the circumstances are different. In the street life, your life is on the line as an element of danger if you do certain things, if you say certain things. And in the corporate space, there's not an element of danger, like your life is on the line, but your livelihood is on the line. So it's still a lot at stake, but it's just different circumstances. But all the elements, all the people are still, all the character traits are still the same. And we can learn from Carlito. Carlito knew that everybody had an angle. Everybody he met, everybody he interacted with, everybody he talked to in that environment had an angle to get something, to learn something, to try to finesse a situation. It's the same in corporate. You have to, when you approach people in that environment, you have to realize that they all have an angle. Even small talk, water cooler talk, as they call it, there's an angle going on. Somebody is trying to gain some leverage. Somebody's trying to gain some information that they can use either against you or for themselves. So you have to be cognizant of that. You have to be aware of that. And you have to try to understand what their angle is. And that was Carlito's strength. He never revealed his angle, but he always tried to see what the angle was of the person he was dealing with first. So he always kept things close to the vest. He had never tried to impress upon people a certain image or try to make them think a certain thing of him. He was more interested in what their angle was for how they were going to deal with him than he was in trying to portray an image or a character trait to them to try to get them to like him or try to get them to think certain things about him. So that was one of his strengths, was he never played his hand. He forced others to play their hand first, and then he adjusted once they played their hand and once he knew what their angle was. So when you're in the corporate space, do the same thing. Keep things close to the vest. You don't have to share all your opinions and thoughts about certain things. Make others do that before you, and then see how you can leverage that information to be beneficial for you. It is a game, and you have to play it strategically, and strategic means without emotion. So that was one of Carlito's strengths, is he never played his hand. And then sometimes, you have to realize that who you're dealing with. Sometimes you may have enemies. You have to be cordial and courteous with your enemies. You have to play dumb in certain instances. You have to act like you don't know certain things. You have to quell your anger. You have to just play different parts in order for people to reveal their true intentions. Carlito knew how to move and maneuver with certain people. When the mob or the people at the end, when he was trying to get away, they came to the club and they were acting nice with him. He knew it was a farce. He knew it was a front, but he had to front. He had to front like he was being nice with them to see where they were going to take it, how they were going to try to attack him. So sometimes you have to be generous with your enemies. Sometimes you have to be rough with your friends. It all depends on the circumstance and the situation. So you have to assess that with a logical point of view and not an emotional point of view. And in order to do that, you have to take some distance. You have to say, hold on, what does this person want? What are they after? How am I being used? Am I being manipulated? You have to start to ask yourself these questions while you're dealing with people. And sometimes it gets hard because we're in the midst of dealing with people. We're emotional. We're all over the place. We have different priorities. We have different things on our minds. So we might not be that. But sometimes you have to take your time. You have to slow down before events unfold. And then you will be more prepared for when they do unfold. So you have to think before things happen in order to be prepared for when things happen. You feel me? And that was one of Carlito's strengths. Also, he had an exit strategy. Now, obviously in the movie, if you've seen the movie, he didn't get to execute his exit strategy, but he did have one. He had a goal in mind. He had an amount in mind. He had a destination in mind for when he was going to exit his current life and begin a new one. And you can have the same strategy in corporate. You can have an exit strategy when you start a job, when you start a career path, when you start with a company. You can have an exit. You can have a long-term view of when you're going to shift your priorities, when you're going to shift in your career, when you're going to shift companies, when you're going to shift to maybe be an entrepreneur or pursue entrepreneurship. So have an exit strategy, have a number, have a goal for when you want to shift your focus to something else. Now, Carlito did make mistakes. Granted, with all his strengths and all the wisdom he learned on the streets, he did have mistakes. He did 2 mistakes he made. He underestimated his friends, Pachanga's jealousy. He didn't really see Pachanga. He didn't really understand his motivations. He didn't really understand his mental state. He kind of just assumed that he was always going to be there, and he didn't see the underlying resentment, and that cost him dearly in the end. So you want to, even with friends and people close to you, you want to still take an assessment of, you want to check their temperature, so to speak. You feel me? And you want to see where their head is at, where their mental is at. Don't always take them for granted and assume that because they've been there, they're going to continue to be there. So that was one of his mistakes. And then the other mistake is he didn't talk to or deal with people with courtesy. With Benny Blanco from the Bronx, you know, he talked to him really disrespectful in the beginning of the movie. He kind of disregarded him, and he had an altercation with him, and he didn't finish it. And he didn't realize that that could potentially bite him in the end. But I'm saying for you in corporate, don't be attacking nobody physically, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, the way you talk to people, always be courteous, always have your dignity. Don't ever allow your anger to make you talk to somebody in a discourteous manner. Never allow anybody to be more courteous than you. And that will go a long way, because once you talk to people and you're disrespectful and you disregard them, that could come bite you later on in your career. People build up quiet resentments, and they're going to want to get their pound of flesh. If it's not now, it may be later. So don't ever underestimate anyone, and don't ever allow anyone to be more courteous than you. And those are the 2 mistakes that Carlito made. So I love the movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. The original one with Al Pacino. I just want to give you some game on that. His outlook on the street life can apply to the corporate life. Everyone has an angle. Keep your ears and eyes open, and don't ever allow anyone to be more courteous than you. All right? Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching. And as always, if you want to learn more about navigating this corporate structure, don't hesitate to get my book, A Black Man's Guide for Working in Corporate America, available on Amazon now.